My story shit, I just got out of jail for just beat a body in 2 attempts. Like, December? I just got out, started rapping shit. I got the crazy story from the drop. Got the War With Us and got Problems out. Shit, right now, shit, I'm on the up and coming shit.
So you was in jail for 2 murders?
Yeah, 1 murder and 2 attempts.
In the world of drill rap, some artists don't just talk about the trenches, they come straight from them. The lyrics, the energy, the stories. They're not just entertainment, they're confessions layered over hard beats. But when the music fades and the feds kick in the door, that lifestyle catches up. Some rappers did a few months, others did years, and a few might never see the outside again. From RICO charges to murder for hire plots, from shootouts in traffic to federal drug stings, these rappers lived what they rapped. This is drill rappers who've been to prison. Lil Durk, a prominent figure in the Chicago drill scene and leader of Only the Family, OTF, has had multiple legal entanglements throughout his career. Before the arrests, before the federal charges, and before OTF became a household name, Lil Durk was just another teen from the south side of Chicago trying to survive. He was born on October 19th, 1992. He grew up in Inglewood, one of the most violent neighborhoods in America. His father, Big Durk, was sentenced to life in prison in 1994 on a narcotics distribution charge. That left Durk to grow up in a single-parent household with his mother and siblings. Durk's early music was raw and reflective of his environment. He started dropping music on MySpace and YouTube around 2010, and his breakout mixtape, Life Ain't No Joke, in 2012 began to catch attention. His affiliation with the Black Disciples, specifically the Lamron set, was no secret in his music. He shouted out BD sets in tracks like L's Anthem, signaling where he stood in the street politics of Chicago drill. Durk's first arrest came on October 5th, 2011. At the time, he was just beginning to gain attention in the drill scene. According to NBC Chicago, police found a .40 caliber handgun with the serial number scratched off during a traffic stop. Possession of a firearm with a defaced serial number is considered a felony in Illinois, often tied to gang activity due to its association with untraceable weapons. He was charged and later pled guilty to a reduced charge, aggravated unauthorized use of a weapon. He was sentenced to 3 months in jail, released on bond, then sent back to serve another 87 days. This arrest also made Durk a convicted felon, a status that would follow him into every courtroom moving forward. On June 5th, 2013, Chicago police responded to a call of a man with a gun on South Green Street. Officers saw Durk toss a loaded .40 caliber handgun into his car. He was arrested and charged with unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. Held on a $100,000 bond, Durk was reportedly backed by witness affidavits stating the gun wasn't his. One witness even claimed the weapon belonged to him. Durk was eventually released on July 18th. 2013. This arrest didn't derail his momentum. Just months later, he dropped the Sign to the Streets mixtape, widely regarded as a classic in drill history. During this time, Durk's music heavily referenced his legal problems. In 52 bars, he rapped, "Got a case and I beat it. Called the Lord, I ain't need him." On Bang Bras, he declared, "I got locked for that pole. Ain't no panic in my soul." He also started getting cosigns from French Montana and even Meek Mill. Despite his cases, Durk was seen as a street-certified rapper who was really living what he rapped. In February 2019, a man was shot outside the Varsity restaurant in Atlanta. Surveillance footage allegedly showed Durk, King Von, and another OTF affiliate confronting the victim before shots were fired. The victim was shot in the leg and survived. On May 30th, 2019, Durk turned himself in to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. He was charged with criminal attempt to commit murder, aggravated assault, participation in criminal street gang activity, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Bond was denied initially. A month later, Durk was granted a $250,000 bond and released. King Von, who was co-defendant in the case, also bonded out. Durk dropped the track Turn Myself In just before his arrest, with lines like, "I'm thankful for my fans. These rappers don't understand. I'm trying to be the man. Came from the bottom. Did this shit with my own hands." Despite facing serious time, Durk doubled down on his music grind. He dropped Love Songs for the Streets 2 in July 2019 and stayed active on social media. Public reaction was mixed. Fans flooded Twitter with the hashtag #FreeDurk, while others accused him of using the case to gain publicity. DJ Academics posted bond documents and live updates from court on his Instagram. In October 2022, the Fulton County DA dropped all charges against Durk due to insufficient evidence. Key witnesses refused to testify, and surveillance footage failed to clearly identify Durk as the shooter. Vaughn had already died in November 2020, and the case against him was also closed posthumously. This outcome allowed Dirk to reposition himself as someone who beat a major case, not through snitching, but due to lack of evidence. On October 24, 2024, Dirk was arrested again, this time in Florida on federal charges tied to a murder-for-hire plot. According to Forbes, Dirk allegedly ordered a hit on Quando Rondo in retaliation for the death of King Von. The attempted hit didn't get Rondo, but it left his cousin, Lul Pob, dead in a 2022 Los Angeles ambush. Federal investigators tied the attack back to Dirk through phone taps and informant testimony. Dirk was charged with conspiracy to commit murder for hire, interstate commerce in aid of racketeering, and using a communication device in furtherance of a violent crime. He pleaded not guilty and has been in federal custody since. King Von Davon Daquan Bennett, better known as King Von, was born on August 9, 1994, and raised in the Parkway Gardens housing complex on the south side of Chicago, also known as O Block. The area is notorious for gun violence, poverty, and its ties to gang culture. Von grew up surrounded by the influence of the Black Disciples, a dominant gang in the area. From early on, he was surrounded by crime and gang activity, and he didn't shy away from embracing that lifestyle. He was raised primarily by his mother, while his father spent most of Von's early life in and out of prison. Von mentioned in interviews that he only met his father once when he was around 8 years old before his father was killed shortly after being released from jail. Despite a relatively good relationship with his stepfather, Von was pulled into the streets by the time he was 15. He became involved in robberies and was known to carry firearms. The street environment of Chicago took hold of him quickly, and his reputation on the block grew before he ever picked up a mic. Von lived a street life before rap ever came into the picture, and many of his lyrics would later reflect the very real events he went through. At age 15, Von was arrested for armed robbery and carjacking. It was his first documented run-in with the law, and he ended up doing a short stint in boot camp. Because of his young age, the charges were eventually dropped, but the taste of freedom didn't last long. Not too long after his release, Von was locked up again, this time for possession of a firearm. That charge resulted in him spending 15 months behind bars. Once out, he was arrested yet again for criminal damage to property and reckless conduct. A warrant was also out for his arrest around this time. On June 17, 2014, he was picked up again and held until June 8, 2014, when he was released. His name was already ringing bells on O Block and other sets in Chicago by then, but that was only the beginning. A little over a month after his release, Von found himself at the center of a murder case that would define his reputation in the streets and the music industry. On July 24, 2014, Von was arrested and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder for a shooting that happened on May 29, 2014. The incident occurred near the 5700 block of South LaSalle Street in Chicago. The victim was 19-year-old Malcolm Stuckey, and 2 other men were injured. According to prosecutors, Von and his co-defendant Michael Wade attended a party earlier that night but left following a verbal altercation. Around 45 minutes later, they returned to the scene and allegedly opened fire on a group of individuals sitting on a front porch. Stuckey was shot in the head and died shortly after. The other 2 victims were wounded but survived. More than 20 shell casings were found at the scene. Wade later admitted to acting as muscle for Von, claiming Von had beef with someone at the party. Wade also confessed to firing 15 to 16 shots at the victims. Von remained silent during police interrogation and never confessed. Despite the weight of the charges, Von maintained his innocence and was ultimately acquitted after spending over 3 years in Cook County Jail awaiting trial. After being found not guilty in 2017, King Von was released. He was 23 years old and had already spent several years behind bars. That same year, he connected more deeply with Lil Durk, who invited him to Atlanta. Von recalled in interviews that shortly after his release, he was in Durk's basement where he made his first track. The energy was raw, and Durk encouraged him to take music seriously. That first song was titled Beat That Body, a reference to the very case Von had just beaten. In August 2018, Von released Problems, his first solo track. The song gained traction quickly, amassing millions of views on YouTube, but it was Crazy Story, dropped on December 6, 2018, that put Von on the map. The track showcased Von's storytelling style and set the tone for his rap identity. The official music video for Crazy Story now has over 80 million views. Durk later hopped on the remix, and their chemistry as real-life friends and collaborators translated into one of the most iconic drill tracks of that year. The The remix has over 40 million views. Von's rap style, laced with real-life references and vivid detail, was what fans gravitated toward. He was considered one of the best street storytellers in drill. In 2019, King Von and Lil Durk were arrested in connection with a shooting and robbery outside the Varsity restaurant in Atlanta. The shooting occurred in February 2019, and both men were accused of shooting a man and stealing $30,000, a gold chain, and a vehicle. On May 30th, 2019, both rappers turned themselves in. They were each charged with 5 felonies: criminal attempt to commit murder, aggravated assault, participation in criminal street gang activity, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Surveillance footage reportedly captured the altercation, but both Von and Durk's legal teams argued that the evidence wasn't clear enough to prove guilt. Durk released the track "Turn Myself In" just before surrendering, a move that fueled speculation and attention. At the time, the case shook the industry because both rappers were on the rise. Still, Von was granted a $250,000 bond and continued to build momentum while out. On November 6, 2020, tragedy struck. King Von was shot and killed in the parking lot of the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. According to surveillance footage and multiple witness reports, Von and his entourage ran into Quando Rondo's crew. A fight broke out between Von and Quando. During the altercation, Lil Tim, Quando Rondo's close friend, stepped out of a white SUV and shot Von. Von was rushed to the hospital but later died during surgery. He was 26 years old. The shooting left 2 others dead and several more injured. Leaks was arrested and charged with Von's murder but was released on bond. As of early 2025, that case is still active. King Von left behind 2 children and a growing catalog of music. His debut album, Welcome to O Block, was released just 1 week before his death and has since been certified gold. His other projects, including Grandson Volume 1 and LeVon James, further cemented his legacy as a rising star in drill. In the aftermath of his death, Asian Doll, his ex-girlfriend, publicly mourned his passing, and Lil Durk deactivated his Instagram for a time, choosing not to speak publicly on the situation. Fans across social media paid tribute, with R.I.P. King Von trending for weeks. NBA Youngboy, Kentrell Deshaun Gaulden, known to the world as NBA Youngboy, is one of the most controversial and prolific figures in modern rap. Hailing from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Youngboy's life has been shaped by constant run-ins with the law. His father received a 55-year sentence when Youngboy was still a child, allegedly tied to a robbery gone wrong. After his father's incarceration, Youngboy was raised by his grandmother. Following her death, he moved in with a friend, 33, and 33's mother, Monique. By that point, Youngboy was already on the path to the streets. He started writing music when he was just 7 years old, but without money to record in a studio, he and 33 resorted to stealing car batteries from 18-wheelers and selling them to pay for studio time. At age 15, Youngboy caught his first robbery charge and was sent to juvenile detention for 6 months. During this time, he began writing his debut project, Life Before Fame. Upon release, he doubled down on his dream to be a rapper, but his legal problems were just beginning. Youngboy was originally affiliated with PBG, Top Boy Gorillas, a local crew in Baton Rouge, but a deepening feud with BBG, Bottom Boy Gorillas, which included his cousin Bazilla, started to tear the streets apart. After falling out with TBG, Youngboy created his own crew, Never Broke Again. Tensions escalated, and after Bazilla was allegedly gunned down by shooters from a separate crew, Youngboy and his crew retaliated the same day. They opened fire on a group of alleged enemies from a moving vehicle. His homie NBA Joe was shot in the neck, and Youngboy was arrested weeks later and charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. Facing potentially decades behind bars, he took a plea deal and was convicted of aggravated assault with a firearm. He served a few months in jail and came home to a growing fan base and street reputation. Upon release, he dropped Untouchable, which reflected his desire to stay out of trouble. But that resolution didn't last long. In 2018, Youngboy was arrested on serious charges after his tour bus was stopped in Florida due to an outstanding warrant in Georgia. Authorities were investigating a domestic violence case involving his then-girlfriend, Jania. Witnesses reported hearing a violent altercation in their hotel room. When police arrived, Youngboy and Jania had already left, but blood was found in the room, and surveillance footage later surfaced, showing Youngboy physically assaulting her. Jania publicly downplayed the incident, claiming they were just playing. She refused to cooperate with police, refused to testify, and ultimately didn't press charges. Youngboy pled guilty to a misdemeanor and received 12 months of probation and court-ordered anger management classes. The case nearly derailed his career, but ended up being another close call. In December 2018, NBA Youngboy and Quando Rondo were performing in South Carolina, when a fan allegedly attempted to snatch Youngboy's chain. Backstage, reports surfaced that Youngboy and Rondo assaulted their own bodyguard after he refused to retaliate against the fan. A leaked video appeared to show the two rappers putting hands on someone, and the bodyguard later filed a lawsuit claiming physical injuries, emotional distress, and damage to his professional reputation. The lawsuit was filed, but no criminal charges were brought. Youngboy's legal woes escalated in May 2019 during Rolling Loud weekend in Miami. After dissing his Baton Rouge ops in music and online, Youngboy became a high-profile target. His enemies, including members of TBG and affiliates like Fredo Bang and Lit Yoshi, allegedly tracked him down. Youngboy was ambushed outside his hotel. A shootout erupted in broad daylight, resulting in the tragic death of an innocent bystander. Youngboy was not charged with murder, but the shooting led to a probation violation. At the time, Youngboy was already on probation from his earlier gun charge, and the court ruled that he had violated the terms by associating with Ben Fields and Boomer, individuals involved in the earlier 2016 drive-by case. Despite facing up to 10 years in prison, Youngboy was sentenced to just 90 days in jail and house arrest afterward. On September 28, 2020, Youngboy was filming a music video in Baton Rouge when police received reports of firearms being brandished. A SWAT team raided the set and found 14 guns, drugs, and nearly $500,000 in cash. Youngboy and 15 others were arrested. He was hit with federal drug and weapons charges. At the time, he was already a convicted felon due to the 2016 drive-by plea deal, making the possession of firearms a federal offense. Youngboy quickly bonded out but left Louisiana and fled to Los Angeles. When the feds attempted to arrest him in LA, he led them on a brief foot chase before being captured with the help of K-9 units. This added another set of federal charges to his growing list. His legal team argued for his release, and in 2021, a judge granted a $1.5 million bond and allowed Youngboy to serve his pretrial detention under house arrest in Utah. Youngboy's house arrest was unique. He was placed in a remote Utah home with court-ordered conditions to limit his movement and monitor his communication. Kyrie Garcia, his former school counselor, had moved to Utah, and her presence was cited by the court as a stabilizing factor. But in 2024, Youngboy's situation took another dark turn. Authorities raided his Utah residence and arrested him on over 60 new charges related to a prescription drug ring. Police allege Youngboy and his associates were calling in fake prescriptions for promethazine with codeine to pharmacies under fake names. One red flag was a call using the name Gwendolyn Cox. A Chevy linked to Youngboy was used in a pickup attempt, and authorities recovered additional guns and drugs from his home during the raid. His house arrest was revoked, and he was extradited to Baton Rouge. Youngboy's legal team filed arguments claiming that banning a felon from possessing a firearm violated his Second Amendment rights. The court decided to wait for Supreme Court decisions in similar cases, including Rahimi v. United States, which involved a domestic abuser with a restraining order. Ultimately, Rahimi lost his case, weakening Youngboy's defense. Despite this, Youngboy managed to reach a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to 4 felonies and 6 misdemeanors in his Utah drug case. The Baton Rouge gun charges were moved to Utah, and both cases were consolidated under a global plea deal. The 4 felonies were reduced to misdemeanors. On December 10, 2024, Youngboy was sentenced to 23 months in federal prison and 60 months of probation. Celebrity attorney Bradford Cohen, known for working with Kodak Black, predicted Youngboy would be released early. That prediction came true. In January 2025, the Bureau of Prisons confirmed Youngboy would be released by July 27, 2025, with credit for time served. He was transferred to FCY Talladega in Alabama, and there's a chance he will be moved to a halfway house before being released outright. Youngboy remains one of the most streamed rappers of his generation, even while incarcerated. His legal journey is one of the most complex in hip-hop history, involving local, state, and federal cases across multiple states. Despite the odds, Youngboy has consistently avoided long-term prison sentences, though each brush with the law has edged closer to ending his career. Whether he will fully avoid further legal trouble remains to be seen. Fans are hopeful he'll return stronger in late 2025 and take advantage of what could be his final shot at freedom. Pooh Shiesty. Lontrell Donnell Williams Jr., better known as Pooh Shiesty, was born on November 8, 2000 in the Cane Creek Apartments of South Memphis, Tennessee. Growing up in a household with both parents, Shiesty's early life wasn't marked by the same instability many rappers from the streets of Memphis face. But even with a stable home, the pull of the streets was strong, and by the time he was in middle school, he was already involved in criminal activity. Pooh was first arrested at around age 12 and sent to juvenile detention. Though details about that early arrest remain vague, He admitted to being expelled from his middle school and then sent to an alternative school, where his legal issues escalated. It wouldn't be the last time he had run-ins with the law, and it certainly wouldn't be the most serious. He began rapping seriously in 2017. His first song, Weak As Bitch, a collab with a local female rapper, was released in 2018. That record started building a buzz in Memphis, and he followed it up with another collaboration titled Breaking News, which also did numbers locally, but it was Hell Night, a 2019 single with his childhood friend Big 30 that began to cement his name in Memphis's underground scene. Big 30 was signed to Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang label first, but the two continued to collaborate heavily. The track Ooh Ooh with Blockboy JB gave them their first look beyond Memphis. It was a regional hit that hinted at Pooh's potential to blow up nationally. His consistency paid off when he dropped Shiesty Summer, a single that did over 6.3 million views on YouTube and helped solidify his presence. With increasing attention, Pooh Shiesty eventually landed a deal with Gucci Mane's 1017 label under Atlantic Records. The co-sign from Gucci Mane was major, and soon Pooh was doing tracks with Lil Baby, Moneybagg Yo, and Gucci himself. Singles like Back in Blood went viral, and Pooh Shiesty was one of the hottest new rappers in 2020 and early 2021. But just as fast as he rose, legal issues started threatening to derail his momentum. In October 2020, Pooh was involved in a robbery-turned-shooting in Bay Harbor Islands, Miami. According to police reports, Pooh had arranged to meet two men to buy a pair of Air Jordans and marijuana. One victim claimed the rapper paid him with money from a lime green McLaren he had rented. While sitting in the car talking, two men exited another vehicle and approached with guns. One of the victims stated that Pooh told him to get out of the car, and then allegedly shot him in the buttocks as he exited. The second victim, returning to his vehicle, claimed Pooh pointed an assault rifle at him and told him, don't try it, before fleeing the scene. Both victims were hospitalized but survived. Crucially, Pooh reportedly left behind a Louis Vuitton bag filled with over $40,000 in cash. Detectives tracked the bills and matched serial numbers to money previously posted on Pooh Shiesty's Instagram account. Photos showed the rapper posing with the exact McLaren he had rented, and with the same Louis Vuitton bag and money stacks. The police had solid circumstantial evidence linking him to the crime scene. Pooh turned himself in on October 13, 2020. He was charged with armed robbery with a firearm, aggravated assault with a firearm, aggravated battery, and theft. Despite the serious charges, his bond was set at $30,000, relatively low for an armed robbery case involving injuries. Pooh's lawyer argued that the rapper had no motive to commit the robbery since he already had $30,000 in cash and rented the car in his own name. The judge agreed to set a bond, noting that something was missing in the case, especially considering the robbery charge typically doesn't allow bond. Pooh bonded out the same day and returned to the studio, acting as if nothing happened. Gucci Mane publicly supported him during the case, posting Free Pooh Shiesty, something he rarely does for artists signed to him. In May 2021, just a few months after bonding out, Pooh was again involved in a shooting, this time at the King of Diamonds strip club in Miami. During a performance, Shiesty allegedly dropped some money, and in the chaos that followed, shots were fired. A security guard was reportedly struck in the ankle. Initial reports said the incident stemmed from Pooh's anger over someone allegedly stealing money from him. He fled the scene but later turned himself in. Shiesty was booked and held without bond. This time, the charges were federal. The feds used the previous Bay Harbor incident as part of a broader pattern to show that Pooh posed a threat to public safety. He was hit with a federal indictment that included charges related to both shootings. The feds built a strong case, using surveillance footage, social media posts, and forensic evidence to tie him to both crimes. The evidence included matching serial numbers on the bills, forensic analysis of the Lewis bag, and video that allegedly captured the moments before and after the shootings. Facing the possibility of life in prison, Pooh's legal team negotiated a plea deal. In January 2022, he pled guilty to one count of conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent crimes. This was part of a broader agreement where the more serious charges, including armed robbery and aggravated assault, were dropped. In April 2022, Pooh was sentenced to 63 months in federal prison, just over 5 years. Factoring in time served, he's expected to be released around late 2026 or early 2027 if he maintains good behavior. During sentencing, the judge acknowledged Shiesti's success in music and noted that he had a path to a better life. Still, he emphasized that violence, especially when involving firearms, has serious consequences. Pooh is currently serving his sentence in a federal correctional facility. Since being locked up, he has kept a relatively low profile. He's occasionally posted on social media via messages relayed by his team, thanking fans for their support and promising to return stronger. His debut album, Shiesty Season, went platinum and continues to be streamed millions of times monthly. Despite being behind bars, his influence in Memphis rap and the broader hip-hop scene remains strong. Songs like Back in Blood and Neighbors remain staples in street playlists, and his legacy continues to grow with fans eager for his release. Many in the industry, including Gucci Mane, Moneybagg Yo, and Lil Durk, have expressed support. There are even rumors that new music recorded before his incarceration could be released in the near future. While Pooh's legal problems slowed down what could have been a meteoric rise, he still has time on his side. If he's released early and manages to stay out of trouble, he could easily reclaim his spot as one of the hardest rappers coming out of Memphis. Lil Reese. Lil Reese, born and raised in Southside Chicago, became affiliated with the Black Disciples from a young age, specifically the Lameron set, which is normal spelled backward, named after the 64th and Normal block. This set later linked up with Tay-Town and formed the collective known as 300. Reese's early immersion in this environment set the stage for a life intertwined with street politics and violence. Reese's earliest documented run-in with the law came in 2010 when he was just 17. He was arrested and charged with burglary, but since he was a minor at the time, details of the arrest are scarce. It was later revealed that he pleaded guilty and received 2 years of probation. During this period, he started taking music seriously and collaborated with Chief Keef on tracks that helped launch the Chicago drill scene into national attention. In February 2012, an altercation involving Reese and a woman escalated after she allegedly tried to remove him and a group of friends from her apartment. The event was caught on video and posted online in October 2012, shortly after Reese had signed with Def Jam. A police report was filed, resulting in a warrant. Police found Reese asleep in a parked car in South Wells and ran his name, uncovering the 2012 warrant. He was arrested on charges of criminal trespass, mob action, and battery. Held on a $100,000 bond, Reese bonded out quickly. The eventual resolution of the case remains unclear. In June 2013, Reese was arrested and charged with using false documentation to obtain a 2006 BMW 750 Li. A 44-year-old man was listed as the victim, claiming he never authorized the car registration. Reese had been pulled over the same day he bought the BMW for unrelated traffic violations. He posted a $5,000 bond and the charges were later dropped. Less than a month later, Reese was arrested after police spotted him with known gang members on Eggleston Avenue. He tried to flee but was stopped, and officers allegedly found $2,090 in cash and $24 worth of marijuana. Reese told officers, "It's mine. I got a little weed. So what? There's more serious crime out there. This ain't a big deal. I'm gangster." He was arrested for bail violation and possession. Bond was set at $10,000, which he posted quickly. Reese was pulled over by police while driving a Porsche in Chicago. Officers claimed they saw him try to conceal a loaded firearm and arrested him. He was charged with felony possession of a firearm and held on a $50,000 bond. He was acquitted in 2015 during a bench trial. In 2018, licensed gun dealer Jonathan Smalley was arrested for illegally supplying firearms to Chicago gang members, including Lil Reese and Michael Wade, King Von's co-defendant in the Malcolm Stuckey murder case. Smalley was accused of fueling gang violence through his distribution network. Reese was arrested on January 30th, 2016 on charges of indirect criminal contempt. While the exact reason remains unclear, some speculated it was tied to failure to follow court instructions. Reese was held without bond but released shortly after. No clear resolution of the case was provided. The FBI and Chicago PD raided Reese's South Loop apartment in May 2018, recovering $2,200 worth of marijuana, a digital scale, and a large sum of cash. Reese claimed in a later interview that former NFL player turned FBI agent Charles Tillman seized $100,000 from him during the raid. He was charged with felony drug possession but later accepted a plea deal which downgraded the charge to a misdemeanor in exchange for probation and a $584 fine. In 2024, Lil Reese was arrested once again, this time for allegedly assaulting the mother of his child at the Pink House nightclub in Texas. Witnesses reported a violent altercation that led to Reese being taken into custody at the scene. He was later sentenced to 5 years in prison. The incident shocked fans, who believed Reese had turned a new leaf after staying out of legal trouble since 2018. As of now, Lil Reese is serving a 5-year sentence for the 2024 assault case. Despite previous attempts to avoid further legal trouble, this latest incident marks yet another setback in the rapper's ongoing battle between fame and the streets. Bobby Shmurda had everything going for him. His song Hot Boy took the internet by storm, which led to Bobby signing a major record deal with Epic Records and earning $20,000 per performance. As of now, Hot Boy has over 500 million views on YouTube and is certified platinum, meaning it has sold over 1 million copies. But even with the world in the palm of his hands, Bobby still managed to land in hot water with the law. Bobby's first known arrest happened on June 3, 2014, at his girlfriend's apartment. Police arrived to execute a search warrant based on suspected drug use and found the apartment door open. Inside, Bobby was allegedly holding a joint in one hand and a firearm in the other. He was arrested and charged with criminal possession of a weapon, a felony. Bobby claimed the gun was a prop for a music video, and later evidence showed his DNA wasn't on the weapon. His legal team also argued that the search warrant may have been issued under false pretenses. Later that summer, Bobby was pulled over on his way to a club gig in Queens. Police searched his vehicle and reportedly found a joint. Bobby and his crew were arrested but quickly released, and no serious charges came from the incident. Then came the arrest that everyone knows. On December 17, 2014, Bobby, along with 14 others including his brother Javiz and close friend Rowdy Rebel, was arrested outside of Quad Studios in New York. He was hit with heavy charges: conspiracy to commit murder, reckless endangerment, drug possession, and illegal firearm possession. Prosecutors claimed that GS9, the rap collective Bobby belonged to, was actually a violent gang responsible for shootings, drug deals, and murders. Bobby was held on a $2 million bail and faced 8 to 25 years if convicted. Police had been investigating GS9 long before Bobby became famous and tried to use his lyrics as evidence, although the court ultimately did not allow it. Bobby sat in jail for nearly 2 years awaiting trial. On September 2, 2016, he accepted a plea deal. In exchange for pleading guilty to third-degree conspiracy and weapon possession, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. The deal gave him credit for 2 years served and 5 years probation after release. What made this plea even more notable is that Bobby reportedly took a longer sentence so that Rowdy Rebel would also receive a reduced sentence, both getting 7 years instead of Bobby getting 5 and Rowdy getting 12. Later, Bobby claimed in court that he was pressured into taking the plea, saying, "I want to drop my plea. I was forced by attorney to take this plea. I was forced." But since the deal waived his right to appeal, the judge denied the request. His lawyer predicted Bobby would serve 3.5 years with good behavior. While incarcerated, Bobby had some run-ins with prison discipline. In 2015, his girlfriend was caught trying to sneak him a shank, leading to an additional 4-year sentence. However, this sentence ran concurrently with his existing one, so he didn't serve any extra time. He was also reportedly involved in a Bloods versus Crips brawl and another major fight in 2016, leading to a month in solitary confinement and restricted phone access. Despite these early issues, Bobby eventually stayed out of trouble and was on track for early release. His parole hearing was set for August 2020, and his conditional release date was December 11, 2020. At only 24 years old, Bobby still had time to get his career back on track. After serving nearly 7 years behind bars, Bobby was released on February 23, 2021, to much fanfare. The internet welcomed him back with open arms. He began working on music again and stayed active on social media, showing signs that he was committed to leaving the street life behind and focusing fully on his career. From the top of the charts to the depths of Rikers Island, Bobby's story is one of fame, loyalty, and consequences. Let's hope the next chapter of his life is all about wins.